I'm going to be 72 years old in August. 72. I'm telling you that because I was born in 1947, and when we were kids coming up through 50, 51, 52, our teachers were veterans. There were guys that put their lives on the line to kill Nazis and Japanese so that we could be free, and they knew what socialism was all about, and they knew what communism was all about, and they taught us it was evil when we were little kids. You guys are as old as I am, most of you remember that. Kids now are learning that it's cool. This whole thing's supposed to be on socialism, and as Sharon just pointed out, many of you already know what socialism is. It's basically a huge overarching bureaucratic government that tells you what to do, and you do it. You go to work and you get what they think is necessary for you to get. You get to keep a little bit more than in communism. Communism, you don't get to keep anything. Communism, by the way, is a subset of socialism. I didn't think that for the longest time, but now I'm convinced of it. Socialism has been around since the beginning of time in that there's always been some guy at the top who's got the army, and he tells you what to do, and as long as you go out in the field and work and you're a good little serf, you get to keep some of your stuff. So communism came about, and they said, let's make it so they can't keep any of their stuff. We'll keep it all, we're the government, and then we'll decide where they go and what they do, but they don't own anything. So I think communism is a very violent subset of socialism. I used to work at the University of Michigan, and I was at Eastern Michigan University for almost 18 years in public radio. And the reason I mention that is these are truly socialist operations. There's nothing free market or freedom-wise with regard to a university or even municipalities. Listen to what the University of Michigan is doing right now with your tax dollars. Now, I'm not going to read the entire thing. You can look at this. This comes straight out of the Human Resources Benefits Office from the University of Michigan. I pretty much read this verbatim on my show. But basically, what's happening with your money in our socialist system here in academia, $30,000 for every individual that wants to become a woman that's a man. It isn't just to hang a set of 38s on them, okay? It's to get your vocal cords shaved. Surgery to get your vocal cords shaved so you can sound like a girl. This is happening right now. $30,000 per individual. So when I was at the University of Michigan, and it goes the other way too, they're helping women turn into men. When I was at the U, the dirty little secret, I've been there twice, but when I was there most recently back in the 90s, the dirty little secret was that in the 70s and 80s, lesbians took over the University of Michigan. Seriously. Because they realized that if we go in and get administrative jobs, our girlfriends, mates, whatever you want to call them, can get medical benefits and all university benefits, so they just went crazy. Every department I ever came in contact with was run by a lesbian, including mine. Anyway, I just want to know, $30,000 if you want to switch sex. Dana said she was incensed, she was furious because any man would try and say he's a woman. She said, he never went through being 12 and 13 years old. Ladies, you know exactly what she's talking about. And yesterday, Mother's Day. Wow. You guys give birth to a baby, that's something that no man's going to do. But how many of you would know or think your first gut reaction to socialism, describe it as a crime family? Raise your hand if you would think that. Now, be honest. I know it's a big government. How many would actually say it's a crime family? Because it is, and that's why it transcends, as Sharon said, the whole spectrum of whether you're on the right or the left. It's a crime family. It literally is the people at the top get all the stuff. I mean, I don't care if you're Hugo Chavez or Mao Zedong. You get the stuff, and you get to keep it, and then you determine what the rules are for everybody else. What they drive, how they drive it, what it's made out of, what they eat, where they buy it, how they get to the market to buy it. And so socialism basically is a mafia crime family. And that's why I say I came to the realization that communism is a subset because this has been going on since the beginning of time. What's a king other than the head of a crime family? Unless he's a good king. And our forefathers at one point were debating that they might want a king instead of a representative government or republic. They were making an argument for king because for the vast majority of human history, we wanted to be told what to do. We need a king. Please, king, tell me what to do, please. I can't figure it out now. And that's how it's always been. So out of the blue come the forefathers, and they say, no, we don't want to do that anymore. We're going to figure it out on our own. We're going to rule ourselves. That lasted for about 100 years, but I mean, it was a great concept, wasn't it? It really was a great concept. They were literally saying, we don't want to be good little earners in this mafia crime family anymore. We want to earn stuff on our own. We'll keep it. We'll run our own damn families. You guys can stay away. So socialism, you got to start thinking of it like that. We're defeating a crime operation. Dana Rohrabacher, who is one of the conservative guys out of California, one of the only ones left, who's been attacked, by the way, by these bastards trying to take our country down. He told an anecdotal story that I thought was really funny. He said, back in the day, when they were working with Ronald Reagan, in the Reagan administration, whether you're in it or not, if you ever got to go into the inner circle, if you're in a situation room or whatever, he said they had a phrase. And I'm going to tell you flat out what it was. It was fuck communism. They all said it. So when they were around the press and the general public, they would say FC, and they'd all go. But it was fuck communism. Reagan knew how evil socialism and communism was. And those guys didn't pull any punches. They throw a punch like I do on the radio about this stuff pretty much every day. We're on this kind of subject matter. Because right now we're fighting for the sovereignty of our country. And we're losing, by the way. We're losing the battle for sovereignty of our country right now on the southern border. And that all pretty much ties into the crime family that is socialism. They're trying to fold us into a global socialist effort because they think it's when I say they, I'm talking about the ones that think they're the smart ones. They're the evolved ones. They're the ones that think you're stupid. They think I'm stupid. They think we're knuckledraggers. We got a gun in one hand, Bible in another. You know what they are. They're the international globalists that think they can manage us better for our own good. Because and it's to them it's evolution. It was to Karl Marx, by the way, the subset I told of socialism. Karl Marx thought that communism was an evolutionary step. He was a philosopher. He wasn't a violent man in terms of going out and burning the town down to start communism. Lenin came up with that. Marx wrote his whole bullshit thing, and then he said, this will be a natural evolutionary step. People will gravitate toward this because it's fair and just, and people want to be good, and they realize that we should all come together and share. Didn't happen. So when he went to London, he was totally freaked out. He was like, how come people aren't grabbing? Look, I just put this paper out. Nobody's paying attention to it. And he didn't realize that it'll never work, but he thought it was an evolutionary step. When the Russians adopted it, and Lenin decided this isn't going to work because it didn't work for Marx, we're going to force it. And they went into Africa and actually experimented and forced it. It had to be done at the barrel of a gun, as Mao put it. And that's where communism comes from, is a violent push toward you having nothing. You're literally, and I was just at a party the other night, two different parties. I was talking to a woman who was in Russia, and she said that, and you guys probably remember this, we learned this with little kids, they'd have an apartment about as big as this like, square area here, and they'd put 2 blankets up in it and house 3 families. And that was your wall, was a blanket, right? And she said it actually happened. It actually was a fact. And then one of the most egregious representations of socialism, I was at a party Sunday where a good friend of mine hosts this kind of a confab every 3 or 4 months where he gets a bunch of different minds in the room and then we talk about issues. And I'm always the token celebrity for whatever that's worth. Last time I was there, I was sitting, not last night or Sunday, I was sitting across the table from Tim Wahlberg, and he got up and left before I could throat punch him. But anyway, this woman was there, I think she was 87 or something, and she was born in Germany and grew up in Nazi Germany and was in the Sudetenland. It was because we were going around the table saying, where are you from? And she said, Sudetenland. And I looked at her, I said, you were there, weren't you? She said, oh yeah. She was in the school where Hitler took the kids from the parents, and that was socialism to the 1,000th power. But one of the things we talked about is Hitler reached out and grabbed the Jews and said, they're the evil ones, let's rally against the Jews. Right now, I'm not equating what I'm about to say with the horrific thing of being Jewish in Germany. But they always need a villain. In China and in Cambodia, it was the intellectuals. If you wore glasses or you had a college education, you were literally looked at as being the problem and you were killed. That's what the killing fields is all about. And what's happening in America right now, I'm really curious. I just want to ask if anybody knows, what is the villain that is set up right now, has been set up beautifully since the 70s, but right now is just being honed to a razor's edge. What's the villain right now that they're going to hang this on? What is it?
Public school system.
No, all of that, but no, it's the climate deniers. It's the climate deniers. Everything is couched around, if you aren't on this global, we're going to die in 12 years thing, you are evil, and you're harming children, and what would you do if someone is harming children? Well, these days, you're a Democrat, it's okay. But if you were harming children, somebody would take care of your ass. And that's what they're doing, they're already talking about. The people that are denying climate are crazy and evil, and they need to be either imprisoned or schooled somehow, educated. So socialism is a crime family, straight up evil crime, and it's evil. It truly is evil. That's why I had an interesting conversation today with a lady who we were both saying, why shouldn't we care anymore? I said, sometimes I want to go down to the panhandle of Florida. There's a couple of crazy cool little bohemian communities down there. I'm going to have a parrot open my beer bottles all day and do nothing. I'm going to sit in the sun and look like one of the Pointer Sisters after a month. Screw it, I ain't getting involved anymore politically. And we both came to the conclusion that we have to stay involved. But it's so frustrating because where we were going in our conversation was, when you get into end times, doesn't socialism play beautifully into that? And Islam, it's a double pincer attack with evil, straight up evil. So anyway, back to socialism. David Horowitz started something called the Freedom Center. You guys familiar with David Horowitz? Yeah, well, David Horowitz at one point was a straight-up communist. And I don't want to say excusably so, but he came out of a Russian Jewish community where he explained that the reason that Jews gravitate so readily towards socialism is because they've had to clump together into socialist communities to survive. They've been assaulted and assailed everywhere they go. They've had to do everything like we had to do this when I was a kid too. We were very poor. We actually had a welfare peanut butter way back when, but you got the clothes from the kid down, right? Luckily, I was the oldest, so I got the cool clothes. My brother got the dirty underwear. But the point is that he said that's why Jews, in particular, of Russian lineage, because they've been under assault on every level, they came together and they had to share everything. They literally do community stews for food, and so he said that's the only way he could explain it. His parents were communists, he was a communist, and then he said he woke up one day, and I played this on the radio about 3 weeks back, and it was very telling. Horowitz said, when he was deep into the Vietnam War protests, he realized after everybody came home, and the protest had its effect. In essence, America lost the war because of a bunch of suits in D.C. running the show, and literally the communists working the protest movement under the radar. He said he realized that after it fell, and Ho Chi Minh slaughtered, I forget how many, a million some people, not one person on the left said one thing. And he said that's just like a light went on over his head. They don't care about people. The left doesn't care about people. They care about an agenda. And then he started nuancing it, and he said the left is cruel. They're straight up mean and they're cruel. And we see that today. It seems almost obvious. But to see this guy go through this process where, it makes a realization. He came to the conclusion that the Republican Party and everybody, let's say on the conservative side, loses the battle every time because the left is cruel and mean and they don't care. We do care, and we're nice. And that's why we're getting our asses handed to us. So he said, we need to be 10% less nice. I said, no, we need to be 25% less nice.